to the official podcast at contentchampion.com. Join our heroic quest to discover truly epic content marketing. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hi guys, welcome to the Content Champion podcast. Thanks as always for listening. I'm delighted to say that this is the 50th episode, so to celebrate this milestone, we've got a very special guest for you. Award-winning blogger at bloggerjet.com and head of marketing at Ahrefs, former professional DJ Tim Solo is a content marketing and social media marketing master. Creator of the Tweet This and Content Upgrades Pro WordPress plugins, he's also a massively engaging writer. What better person then to discuss today's subject? How to write strategically to get more traffic, subscribers and sales with your articles. Thanks for coming on, Tim.
Oh, thanks for having me, Loz. That was a great introduction, and you have such a great radio voice. I'm just jealous.
Oh, thank you. Look, before we dig down then into the subject of today's show, we'd love to hear all about you and your backstory as well, please.
Okay, I'll try to make it really short because I think people want to get to the actual meat of the podcast. So I guess the most interesting part of my backstory is that I come from a small town in Ukraine. And before entering the world of online marketing, I used to be a professional DJ. This is when I launched my first site, a blog about electronic music. And after a few months, I realized that publishing blog posts didn't bring me any traffic, so it was practically non-existent. This is how I started to learn SEO and got my first job as junior SEO specialist shortly after launching that blog. So this was like year 2010, and 6 years fast forward, and I'm working as a head of marketing at Ahrefs, and I'm absolutely enjoying it here.
Well, it's a fantastic success story, and I advise everyone to go to Bloggerjet, and I've just read everything on there. I was also listening to one of your mixes yesterday. I love house music. I've got a stand-up desk, so I was just dancing away while I was doing my copy yesterday to one of your mixes. So, okay, as you say, let's get into the meat of the podcast. You start off this whole premise, let's frame it like this. You say every article you write should have a visual impact on your business. In what way and why is this so important?
Like I said, I worked with quite a few companies over the past 6 years, and I was practically in charge of their blogs. So I have to confess that I didn't have much experience back in the days. So I was pretty much doing the stuff that I saw everyone around me was doing. So I saw the competitors publishing 2-3 posts per week on different topics, and that's what we did too. I saw our competitors writing list posts, how-to posts, infographics, and all that stuff. So we did that too. But basically, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. You know that picture in the web where a dog sits in front of a computer with a silly face? If you Google for I have no idea what I'm doing and check images, you'll see the dog, and that was me at the time. So our team, like content marketing team, seemed busy publishing all that content, but that didn't move a needle even a bit. So if we looked at the revenue of the startups, of the companies that I worked for, it didn't reflect there. So I guess the only reason why I didn't get fired at the time was because there was no one at the company to know something more that I knew. So this is how I started to think about the content, the articles that have direct input. And I think that if your content doesn't move the needle, then you don't deserve to get paid for it. So this is how we see it, and this is where this whole premise comes from.
Okay, well, look, let's have a look at a checklist for writing articles that drive traffic, subscribers and sales. Firstly, let's look at the traffic side of things in 6 simple steps. Now, I'll just outline the steps quickly and we'll go through each one and have a chat about them. There's find a proven idea, improve that idea, make your article visual, use copywriting techniques, feature influencers, and then optimize for Google. So let's start with find a proven idea. How do we go about this, Tim?
Well, actually, I want to have a little introduction here because earlier today I was answering someone's question on Quora. and the guy or the girl stated that she had launched her blog just like a month ago, and she was wondering how to get traffic to it. So I want to focus on the phrase get traffic. I can't express how much I hate this phrase, because hate traffic, it sounds like you just published a dozen of really awful articles and now you want to force people to read them. But this is not how it works. If you struggle to get traffic, that means that your content doesn't deserve to be seen. That actually sounds like a nice quote. If you struggle to get traffic, that means that your content doesn't deserve to be seen. So if your content is exceptional, you don't have to worry about getting traffic. Your readers will spread the word about it for you. Because think about it, if the article is really good, someone will definitely post it on Reddit, right? And other people would definitely upvote it. So why are people writing articles about like how to get traffic from Reddit? There's no such thing as how to get traffic from Reddit. You have to write content that would appeal to people who hang out on Reddit. So this is why on each social network, on each site where people upvote this stuff, you're not allowed to post your own stuff. And so people ask their friends, can you please submit this article for me? And I will upvote it and I will ask others to upvote it. That's not how it works. You should write the kind of stuff that will naturally get there and get to the top of Reddit. Same with Pinterest, same with Facebook and with all other networks. One other trend I see that content marketers are obsessed about outreach. For example, talking about myself, each week I get about a dozen outreach emails from different people. Guess if they send me something interesting? Of course not. 99% of these emails are simply like articles that aren't worth any attention. I got so tired of this outreach that I literally wrote an article at Ahrefs blog with the title, I just deleted your outreach email and I don't feel sorry. I don't know if you saw that article or not.
Yeah, sure.
If you have a blog full of lame content, if it's awful, there's no way you can get traffic to your blog. So like if someone is looking for ways to get traffic, it's not how it works. So content comes first. I'm a firm believer in that. So let's start with the first item in the checklist, which was find a proven idea. Today, everyone goes crazy about this skyscraper technique. A side note, this is when you find a piece of great content that already worked well on social media, attracted tons of backlinks and blah, blah, blah. And then you try to make something better. This is a great strategy, and I've seen that it worked for quite a few people, but I've also seen that it doesn't work for just as many. And actually, quite often, this strategy doesn't make any sense. Here's an example. Recently at Ahrefs blog, we have published an article with 100 SEO tips. How would you skyscraper that article? You will create a list of 150 tips. In that case, a lot of these tips won't make any sense because we already tried to push out all the nonsense tips out from that list. You can expand on each of these 100 tips. But why would you do that? Because for every tip in our article, we reference a separate article that covers this tip specifically. So why would you want to put all that content in a single article? Create better design, add more visuals, maybe, but for readers that won't add too much value. So my point is that skyscraper technique doesn't work on everything. It's just one of the strategies. So talking about finding great ideas for article, the answer is actually very simple, and I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint a lot of people because the key to finding great ideas for articles is experience. Take me, for example. I've been in SEO and marketing for more than 6 years. I've read thousands of blog posts, dozens of books. I talked to many people about this. I spent years to apply different things that I've learned and see what sticks. And if someone just started his career like a year ago, there is no way that this person will be able to come out with the kinds of ideas that I can come up with. He will simply lack the experience for that. I'm sorry if that doesn't sound motivating, but that's what it is. If you want to come up with great ideas, you have to get experience. You have to read lots of stuff. You have to try to apply lots of this stuff to see if it's real or if these tips are just someone's fantasy. You have to go to conferences, talk to people, exchange your experience, and then you will come up with great ideas. You will just realize that you have something in your head that you want to write about, and it's pretty unique. This is what I offer instead of the skyscraper technique.
What strikes me about what you've just said, Tim, it's really fascinating, is that with all the changes to the Google algorithm over the years, with content marketing coming to the fore, with all the changes that we've had with social media, it seems that almost Google, the internet, whatever, has found a way of replicating offline success in the way it treats content online. And what I mean by that is, gone are the days where you could just build a load of links and game the Google algorithms. Yeah. Gone are the days, it seems, as well, because of the innate ability of Google to see true expertise coming through content.
Absolutely.
When you can fake your expertise. So, we can't have loads of people who don't really have in-depth experience of a particular niche writing content that's just sort of skimming along the surface. What you have to reflect in that brand authority in building up your online business is the skills and experience, as you say, that you have as a person running that business. And that is where the content should come from.
Yes, absolutely. Because for 6 years, I was nowhere. Did you know about me 6 years ago?
No, I probably heard about you, a good year ago, definitely.
So, this is what everyone will go through. There's no shortcut. You have to do stuff, you have to gain experience, and then you will gain the traction. There's no shortcut. There's no strategy that will magically push you to the top. So, I don't know a single person who would just appear out of nowhere with a single article that he wrote. This just doesn't happen.
So this is a process, you get better. So let's say you do all the relevant research, which as a copywriter I would do for a client. I would spend ages and ages researching into their specific area. And then once you've done all that research, you can start to get some sort of structure formatted for the subject you want to write about. And then that research informs that structure, and you can build out the article from there into a big resource that's informed by both your research and your expertise. But then there are other things that go into that, as you say, that make your article more engaging and more shareable and everything else. So we're going to look at some of those. So should we move on to, making these articles more appealing? What can we do? Let's say you've got a great idea, you've done all your research, you've got your expertise into it. How can we use, visuals and copywriting techniques and everything else to move the needle on them?
Visuals. Visuals, this is the great way to make your article more appealing and to make more people want to actually read it. Because, as you may know, the numerous researches have shown that many people, before reading the article, they will quickly skim through. They will see how long it is, how much time it will take them, and if there's something in particular that catches their eye, so that it will make them want to read it. So this, of course, would be a visual. If your article is just 4,000 words of text, I doubt that anyone will read that. And that's the reason why print magazines and newspapers are full of pictures and visuals. Other than that, there are a lot of things that you just can't explain with words. Here's a great example that I actually used in my article. How to tie a tie. Would you explain it to your friend over the phone? I would love to hear that, actually, if you can do this. No way to explain. And actually, it would better to be a video, explaining how you tie it and show it right on the camera. So the question is, where do you take these images for your article? I'm afraid there's no step-by-step straightforward process for that, because the visual itself, it should be born out of your experience, out of your head. You just have to be creative and use your imagination. Once you're writing about something, you should think if this concept, if the thing that you're writing about can be somehow illustrated, somehow visualized. You may read articles by other bloggers and take mental notes of what stuff they visualize and how. Maybe they use comic strips, maybe they use infographics, or just hand drawing. I don't know. Again, this is experience. You just try your best to come up with the visual, and you get better with time. And of course, like one thing I want to note is the more you copy others, the faster you get your experience and get better at this. So just watch other bloggers, what they illustrate, how they do it, and try to do something same for your own articles. And if you're not a Photoshop guy, for example, I'm not a Photoshop guy, you might want to hire a freelancer. And these days it's not a problem. At Upwork or even at Fiverr, you can get visuals for as low as $5. For example, in my article, I used quite a few cool visuals that I spent only $5. Okay, the next thing that you mentioned is copywriting techniques. Copywriting, it could easily be a topic for a separate podcast, I'm sure. And in all honesty, I can't call myself a good copywriter. I'm not even a native speaker, as you can probably tell. So let me just cover two of my personal favorite copywriting tricks that I'm using all the time. The first one is controversy. I'm a big fan of controversy. For example, take this post that I talked about earlier. The headline said, "I just deleted your outreach email and I don't feel sorry." I actually used that same subject in the email newsletter that we sent to our list at Ahrefs, and many people replied saying that this headline literally made them cringe and that it was the best attention-grabbing headline that they ever seen. And of course, a few dudes said that I was I don't know if I can use this word in your podcast, but yeah, they were pretty unhappy. But that happens when you do something controversial. Here's another example. About a year ago, I published an expert roundup on BloggerJet, my personal blog. I emailed about 100 bloggers asking them for their best Twitter marketing tips. Then I published this roundup with the following headline: 50 respected bloggers gave me wrong advice on Twitter marketing. It was really fun to watch the reaction to that headline on Twitter. Again, I'm not sure if I can teach someone to be controversial. I'm not even sure if that's a skill or a trait of a character. But I know that it works incredibly well in terms of attracting more eyeballs to your content. And just one more example from my own portfolio of controversial headlines is this one: 29 brilliant posts that you have to read before I call you an internet marketer. That worked incredibly well. And actually, I welcome the listeners of this podcast to steal this headline and to apply it to their own industry, because it can be easily refurbished into any topic. Okay, this was the first copywriting strategy that I wanted to share. And the second one is actually a very easy one. Write in simple sentences. For me, that is actually the only option, because I simply lack the language skills to make my sentences big and complicated and full of sophisticated words. This is why people in comments to my articles say that my content is easy to read and understand. That's not because I'm a good copywriter. That's because I have no choice but to write in simple sentences. So now you know my secrets. It turns out that my poor knowledge is my advantage, actually.
It's interesting when you look at yourself and you wonder how other people are looking at you. Until we talked about doing this podcast and you mentioned that English wasn't your first language, I didn't know from your writing.
Yeah.
So that's a compliment in itself. They're all great tips. There's loads to think about. And I'm also going to drop in a mention with the visuals that you talked about. Then you can also break things up with, tweetables like your TweetDisk plugin, and you can use things like Thrive themes to make the text look really amazing, which is what I do with my show notes.
I would actually call that formatting. This is something you do extra to the visuals. And I've seen many times when people like Neil Patel create a totally unique design for their articles. This works incredibly well, where you not only put some visuals into your article or use some fancy formatting with Thrive themes, plugins and stuff, but when you actually design the whole page from scratch and it looks unique, that catches attention like nothing else.
It's a great way of doing it. You can actually get ahead by really good formatting. Okay, let's look at these influencers that you feature within the content so you can reach out to them afterwards. We know that these approaches can be wrong. We know they can be spammy. So can you give us some tips here, please?
I'm not a fan of reaching out to people after the article is published. Because let's share the backstory of how we connected with you. Right now, I'm writing a blog post about guest blogging, and I was reaching out to hundreds of bloggers and marketers, asking to share some of their data with me. Till this date, I have emailed over 500 people, and I didn't write even a single line of that article yet. So for me, outreach comes first, because now, once I process all the answers and the article goes live, I know that there are at least 500 people who are looking forward to see what I will come up with. And it won't be an expert roundup, of course. Here's how it works. Like, outreach comes first. Here's how I do this. First of all, you need to come up with some theory. I'm not sure if I can call it idea. I'd rather call it a theory. So my theory with that article was that guest articles don't generate any traffic to your blog, like referral traffic. At least I didn't feel that my own guest articles were sending any new visitors my way. So I decided to ask other bloggers like their opinions and ask for their numbers. I reached out to 500 people, and actually many of them, including you, have provided the data. Thanks for that, by the way. And now I need to process all that and come up with cool takeaways and share them with the world. And as you can see, that's not a skyscraper approach. There are tons of articles about guest blogging, good and bad, and I'm not skyscraping any of them. I have something unique to say, and I don't need to piggyback from ideas of other people. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. So this approach, outreach first, probably you can even call it validating your idea. If you have something interesting to say, if you're about to write an article and you're hoping to reach out to some influencers about it, why don't you reach out up front and ask them what they think about it? Do they think that you should write it? If they say that, yes, this is a cool idea, this is a cool research, this is a cool experiment, please do this and let me know how it goes for you. Then you should go all in and make it happen. If they say, nah, sorry, I've seen like dozen articles about this already, then you probably shouldn't be writing it. So what if you lack the experience like I was previously talking, and if you don't have any cool ideas to validate and to send outreach emails to big people in your field? Why don't you just email them and say that you can write about any idea of theirs if they share this idea with you? Because as we know, ideas are worth nothing while they just stay ideas. For example, my own Evernote is full of really cool ideas that I will never have time for. So if someone will email me and say, hey, Tim, I've heard you have a lot of great ideas to research and write about. Please share one of them with me. I will do all the research. I will write the article, and then I will credit the original idea to you, that it comes from you originally. I would gladly give this guy some of my ideas and see him do all the heavy lifting and then include me in the article just for telling him the idea. In fact, that was just an idea of its own. So why don't someone email 100 famous marketers and ask them this question? Ask them to share some idea, some experiment that they don't have time for, but he can do for them. And then this person can write a post about how he reached out to 100 marketers, asking them for ideas they don't have time for, and how it turned out for him. Were they greedy? Were they open and gave him a ton of ideas? Like, how did it went? Sounds like a nice article. What do you think?
You're listening to the Content Champion Podcast, showcasing the best content marketing strategies across the web.
We're back with Tim Soulo. This is fascinating, because I've also been reading that the most highly engaged pieces of content with their audiences are ones that are based on unique research. So where you go in and you're providing something new, you're going to get that traction in terms of everything we're talking about, the eyeballs on the page, the engagement, and then getting people on your list and selling your products and services. So this also is such a great idea because it includes that outreach, but up the front. So outreach first, proprietary research, and then you're going on the back end and going back to them and say, look, actually what I found out here, it's quite amazing. So you've got like a content asset there all in one go.
Exactly. And if you have no ideas of what to write about, just ask them to guide you. Many people will give you some interesting experiments that they don't have time for, and you can do it for them. Why not?
There's brilliant stuff. Okay, let's keep rolling on. Just the last part of this checklist about the traffic driving, if we could still call it that part of the equation. Just optimizing for Google. Let's give a quick rundown of what we need to do on the page in case, there are small business owners out there who are just starting this and they don't know what to include.
Okay, I have the video series at YouTube called Oversimplified SEO, where I try to keep things really, really simple for two reasons: because I can't speak complex English, and because I'm recording these videos with thoughts of these small business owners that don't have many experience in SEO. And so what I would like to say about the on-page SEO, it's very simple these days. If you want to rank for a specific keyword, just put it in your title, in the headline, and then make sure that the actual article is about this keyword. That's pretty much it. You already said earlier in the podcast that Google is getting smarter and smarter, and it can figure out your expertise, it can figure out your topic, and it can pretty much tell if your article is relevant to the keyword or if it's not. For example, if you Google for guest blogging, and then if you Google for guest posting, you will see pretty much the same articles on the front page of Google. So Google can figure out that guest blogging and guest posting is a pretty much same thing, and you don't even have to use both of these keywords in your title and headline to have your article ranked for both of them. So I wouldn't bother about on-page optimization that much. I would just make sure that your article answers the question that a person is typing into Google. So this is your on-page optimization. Let Google do the rest and make sure that your article is great and that people will link to that article, because as you may already know, the links is what brings an article to the top of Google. At least for now, till Google can't figure out if this article is really the best resource. It relies on links. If a lot of people link to your article, then it moves up. If no one links to it, no matter how great the article is, it won't go up. So first, answer the question that person is typing into Google. Second, make sure that the article is great and other people will link to it. That's it.
Just a quick aside here. I was also reading that about 15% of Google's searches that it comes up with when a keyword term is put into the search engine are now being done on an experimental basis with artificial intelligence. So the algorithm is in real time updating itself and learning that relevance that you were talking about. And ultimately, I guess it'll all be done like that, which is simultaneously terrifying and quite amazing. Okay, that's the traffic getting section of writing these articles. Next up, let's dive into how we get email subscribers with our content. And there are a couple of steps here: using content upgrades and convincing readers to take them. How do we do this, Tim?
Okay, I'm glad that you're bringing the topic of content upgrades, because I like to think of myself as the biggest ambassador of this list building strategy. And my personal opinion is that content upgrades is the single best thing that ever happened to email marketing. Because did you ever see a pop-up or an email form that would convert 60% of visitors into email subscribers? Did you?
That's a big no from me.
Yeah, big no from me too. But I know for sure I have real examples of articles with content upgrades that convert 60% of readers into email subscribers. So in case the listeners are not familiar with this crazy effective strategy, let me explain how it works with a real example. If you go to Google and search for, quote, literary agents who represent Christian authors, quote, you will find an article on the blog of Michael Hyatt. Once you open that article, you'll see that it's very short, and basically Michael says that people often ask him about recommending an agent, and so he basically created a list of literary agents specifically for Christian authors. But here's the catch. To get that list from Michael, you have to give him your email address. This is a perfect example of a content upgrade. So basically, you write an article about some problem that people are facing. You tell them that you have a solution, but you will only send it to them if they give you their email address. This works wonders. I actually tweeted to Michael asking what was the conversion rate of this particular article. He tweeted back, and the number was 59.2%. That's the actual number of how many people convert into email subscribers. I've never experienced anything like this with any other email list building strategies. So if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what else will. So here's something important. Content upgrades are insanely effective, but I see too many people doing it all wrong. They write an article and they just say, hey, want a PDF version of that article? Give me your email and I will send it to you. Why would I want to download a PDF version of an article that I've just read? Even if I want to save an article for future reference, I have Evernote for that. I can bookmark this article. There's a Pocket app. Too many ways to save your article, but why would I want to give you my email for this PDF? So once people try this, try giving the PDF of their article as a content upgrade, they don't see high conversion rate, and then they get discouraged with that content upgrade strategy, and they just stop using it. I want to stress on something. The very core of the content upgrade strategy is to hide something valuable, something people will naturally want to get after reading your article. For example, if you read articles on my blog, I have one about outreach. And in this article about outreach, I said that there are 2 words that you should avoid in your outreach emails at all costs. But I didn't share these words in the actual article. I asked people to give me their email address if they wanted to learn what are these words. According to my statistics, this content upgrade converted at about 10%. It's not, of course, 59.2 like Michael Hyatt, but still it's like 5 times better than any other pop-up or sidebar or whatever I have used on my personal blog in years. So the trick of content upgrades is to write a great article, then cut out some value out of it, and offer this value as a bonus in exchange for an email address. This works incredibly well.
That's a great strategy, isn't it? You know, I have been guilty of that first one where I offered a PDF. I've had one PDF of a step-by-step guide that has done really, really well, though, just to buck the trend of that. But you are right. Most of the time when you do that, it's the lazy way of doing it, and it doesn't work as well. And when I've done individual specific upgrades, I have had them go up into the sort of 40s and 50%, which is just nuts. So it's even worth going back through another tip, all your high traffic posts from the past that don't have these upgrades on them, and think about, you know, because normally your traffic comes from maybe 20% of your total content base on your blog. Go back and have a look at some of these and say, what could I add in terms of value here, like you say, as a content upgrade, and put one on there, because you're just going to get dozens and dozens more email subscribers. What we're talking about here really is there's content all over the place. You can get information on anything you want to, probably for free anywhere, but it's the people who are using that content in a clever way to power their businesses forward. They're the ones that are making hay while the sun shines, because all these techniques we're talking about are really ingenious as a way to leverage the power of your content to get more subscribers, get more eyeballs on the page. And I guess we're coming now to the third overall outcome that we want, which is selling more stuff with our great content. Again, this is the one that everybody wants to know more about. There's a couple of steps that you propose for this, and we've gone into them really with the email subscribers. It's identify a problem and sell the solution. So how do you personally go about doing this, Tim?
The topic of selling is, again, it's a huge topic, and I would love to to share all the tips that I shared in the article, but can I just ask you to put a link to that article in the show notes so that people could go to the selling part and read all my tips?
Definitely.
And I'll just share something a little bit different, because I absolutely love salespeople. I know that a lot of people say that, oh, this like sleazy salesman and all that stuff, but I love salespeople. I love when people try to use sales tricks on me, when these tricks are smart. So when I go to some shop and they say that a person is using smart sales tricks on me, I will buy stuff. Even though I know what exactly he's doing to me, I will just buy stuff to encourage him that he's doing it right. Of course, I'm not talking about buying like TV or something big. I'm talking about the small things like, I don't know, a pen or a t-shirt or some groceries. I will always encourage a good salesman. So there are tons of great sales tricks, and I'm still figuring out many of them. But I want to tell you a nice story from my childhood. So one day, when I was a kid, I was sitting at home doing my homework, and I heard someone knocking the door. I opened the door and saw that two nice guys were standing there with bags full of stuff. They said that there was some kind of new electronics shop opening in our town, and they were promoting it by visiting people in their homes and offering them goods with a huge discount. And they offered me a cassette player. So can you imagine a kid holding a new shiny cassette player? So they literally gave it to me, a new shiny cassette player, and I was holding it in my hands. And then they started asking me questions. What kind of music did I listen to? How many cassettes do I have? Am I going to bring this player with me to school? Do my classmates have these players? So a lot of questions, and I was excited, and I was answering all their questions up until the last one, because they asked for money. Like I said, I was just a kid and I was home alone, and of course I wasn't allowed to spend the money that belonged to my parents, and they didn't have enough money to buy this player. So this is what I told them, and they turned around, said goodbye, and went away. But I give you my word, if I had enough pocket money to buy that player that day, I would immediately buy it. This is how excited I got from talking to them. I didn't really realize what happened there and why I wanted to buy that player so much up until I read a simple sales advice in some book. I don't remember the name of the book actually. So it sounded like this: make your customers see themselves using your product. Paint that picture in their head. So see what I'm talking about here? These guys gave me this player and they were asking me all sorts of questions as if I already owned this player. I could literally see myself going to school and showing my shiny new player to my classmates. I could feel how exciting this feels. I thought about listening to my favorite music on my way from school. This is very powerful. This is why car salesmen allow you to drive the car that you're dreaming to buy. This is because you imagine yourself already owning it. But again, this works great if your product is awesome. And it's something that people naturally need and want. Because if these guys wanted to sell me an iron, that wouldn't work, of course, because I hate ironing since my childhood and to these days. So out of all the pieces of sales advice, I would suggest this: make your customers see themselves using your product. Paint that picture in their head. You can show them how you use it. You can show them what kind of results they can get. You can walk them through, take them by the hand and walk them through all the steps. This is very powerful. This is what closes the sale.
It's an amazing piece of advice because back in the day when I left college, I used to work in telesales as one of my first jobs.
Yeah.
And the senior guy, the most successful salesman who's always top of the board, I saw him pick up the phone and do exactly that to someone over the course of an hour on the phone, about the length of time we've been on this podcast. He painted a picture for them of them using, then buying the product, yes, as we all sat around listening, and he finished the call by closing them. And it was absolutely amazing. And that was content. That was the power of, a very basic script that he had that he knew off by heart. That was countering their objections. That was then, as you say, painting that picture and talking them into the headspace where they didn't even feel like they were being sold to. And it is an art form. And I guess that's what we got to do with our copy as well.
Yeah, true.
Okay, just before the PS question then, this has been a fascinating conversation. Can you tell us where we can find you online, please? And remind us where we can access all your content and your products, please, Tim.
We already mentioned my blog, bloggerjet.com, but I just recently released a free email course of 5 lessons on growing the blog, the stuff that took me 6 years to figure out, and I'm sharing it absolutely free. So if people will type in bloggerjet.com/100k, they will get to the landing page with my course. And I strongly recommend everyone to take it. And I will gladly answer all the questions that they will have while taking the lessons.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
Okay, this is what I call the PS question. Can you share one more advanced content marketing tactic we can use right after this episode, please?
Okay, instead of writing a new article, go find some of your old articles that rank on top of Google and make them more powerful. You can make them more powerful in 2 ways. The first I already explained, by hiding some value under the content upgrade. It worked for Michael Hyatt. It worked to the point of 59.2% conversion rate for him. So it can work for you too. And the second is just rewrite it from scratch. Throw in some fresh content, some fresh ideas, and make sure to change the publish date to the current year, current month, and current date. I can guarantee that after you update some of your old articles that already rank well, they will move up to a higher position in Google.
Well, that's great advice. And look, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learnt a lot. I'm going to go and download your course, the 100k, bloggerjet.com/100k. All that remains to say is thanks very much for your time today on the 50th episode. And I wish you every success with everything you do in future.
Thanks for having me. This was a great time.
You've been listening to the Content Champion podcast, available at contentchampion.com, Stitcher, Zune, the BlackBerry Network, and on iTunes. Until next time, thanks for listening.